This is Real People, Real Stories. The purpose of these interviews is to uplift, motivate, and encourage. And remember, these are real people with real stories. It's not your story or mine, it's their stories and their testimonies. God first and overcome by testimony.
Check. I get wins, no days off. I don't stop. No days off.
People, if you may not be familiar with Michael or his background, like I said, he was the close friend of LAPD detective Russell Poole, who worked the case of Biggie Smalls. And actually, what we're going to do right now, the Tupac case of it, the Tupac side. What did Russell Poole, your close friend, what did he start discovering about the Tupac case as he was on the Biggie case? How did that even connect for him, or what did he say?
So he was on the Biggie case, and he started to see that there was a connection between these two cases. So he actually opened up a murder investigation for Tupac inside of LAPD. And he contacted Las Vegas PD, went out and had meetings with them, and they really did find that these cases are related. And don't forget the Death Row Records people that were trying to topple Suge and trying to kill Tupac. They wanted to sell this as an East Coast, West Coast beef. They wanted to sell it as a blood crip war. And so they were actually creating the link between these cases by trying to sell those narratives, which actually led back to themselves. I mean, it was kind of dumb, to be honest with you. But, you know, that's how it works. Every criminal makes at least 25 mistakes when they perpetrate a crime. And I believe that the blood of these young men cries out from the ground, and God is helping us to solve these cases. And just so you know, too, Russell was a God-fearing man. Russell was a big believer. You know, he grew up going to church. And when I was at Russell's funeral, there were a lot of police officers that were there. There were DAs that were there. They all stood up and they talked about how Russell was a man with integrity. And that integrity had a capital I, because he was all about the truth. And what you say about the truth, you know you the truth and the truth will make you free. It's also the same thing when we're talking about a homicide. And it doesn't matter who is murdered. It doesn't matter what they look like, where they're from. It doesn't matter what language they speak, what culture they're from. Every homicide, regardless of any of those determiners, must be investigated to get to the truth. And so that's part of what we need to do to solve, you know, kind of the brutality that goes on between the police and minority communities. Every murder, if it's a murder of a police officer killing somebody, then they have to go stand trial. I mean, every single person must stand trial if there's a murder. It must be a full investigation, and they got to get cleared by a jury of their peers. And so that's part of the police reform stuff that needs to happen. I was in Minnesota during the George Floyd thing, right in the immediate aftermath. When those buildings were on fire, I was flying in as people were flying out. And I was part of a protest there, you know, a young conservative group that was there to try and have solutions to these problems and trying to talk to politicians there. No politicians would speak to anybody. Wow. And I recorded that until finally there were a couple of politicians that came out and actually wanted to have solutions. One of them was a young man who hadn't run for office yet named John Thompson, and he became one of the city council people in Minnesota. Wow. And these were like great, amazing people that were protesting because we all saw what happened to George Floyd. And, you know, say whatever you want to, he did not deserve to have that knee on his neck. And that whole thing was reprehensible. That's why it sparked worldwide. That wasn't just local. That wasn't just national. There were protests in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder, and they were worldwide.
No, and it should be as well. Like you said, the community, the police, the solution, the problem. We got to get to the root of this problem. And what me and Michael are going to do, we're speaking on a lot of different cases and scenarios off air. and we're gonna see about reaching out to some of these lawyers and people that work there, because like I said, and like what he said, Russell Poole, the late great Russell Poole, and on this channel as well, and on this radio station, this one thing. Let me kind of stray into this, because we're gonna have respect, respect for people that do right, because in this world they make it look as if the evil is cool, the wrong is the right way, thing. And it speaks to this all in Second Timothy verse 3 and chapter 3 in the Bible, that the men will become more evil and wax cold, and they will believe what they're doing is right. So when people on other networks and stations and channels, they mention Russell Poole, some even certain other police officers, they say negative things. And this man just said, even at his funeral, the whole force spoke about this man with integrity, with positivity, with his work that he put in for years and years and years. And from even what I saw, just as an onlooker, and not even within it, but he was very integrous. He brought forth a lot of things. He did things upright. He was an upstanding citizen. He just wanted the badge to be held in honor. So not all police officers are bad or corrupt, but those that are good, they need to be spoken about. They need to be praised, because it's not too many. And those that are many, you see what's going on now. It seems to be covered up. So with that being said, we're going to keep on speaking of Russell Poole. And even on the next episode next week, we're going to speak on even the setup. We're going to get into what the setup really is for these two crimes. And then Russell Poole, how he was figuring it out, and his untimely demise, more into the life of Russell Poole, who he was, what he did, what his work was, his documentaries, his movies, his everything he did, his books. We're going to speak on that next time. But right now, before we close this thing out, Michael, just let them know as well. Let the people know, like you said, I know you mentioned a couple of officers that worked for Death Row while they were off duty. They were LAPD by day, Death Row by night, so to say. So these officers, do you feel as if, or do you know that how was their relationship with Death Row? Was it not authentic? Were they just in it for themselves? Did they have a higher boss that they were answering to above Death Row, or kind of go into that?
Well, you have to understand the music industry. I mean, when I was in Bible school, I went to, vacation Bible school as a kid, and I remember them telling me that this is Satan's world. And
Mm,
I looked at it, but you think about the trees and the flowers and the lakes and the ocean, and you think, how could this be Satan's world? But then when you get into people, you realize this is Satan's world. And
mm,
when you're digging into this stuff, you realize the music industry is one of those vectors, and it's a big amount of money. And the music industry goes hand in hand with the drug trade. And you
mm,
have to have cash to pay for things like getting your record pressed, getting it played at a radio station. You're not going to get your record played. It's not going to become a hit unless you pay the program directors, and those are packets of cash. And those packets of cash, easiest way to get them is from sale of narcotics. And so
mm,
you've got this evil industry. And we didn't create that industry. That industry was created in the 40s. Suge Knight didn't create that industry. He just knew how to play the game. And he was
mm,
really good at it. And you had to have cash. So you've got things that are going on that are nefarious behind the scenes, like drug trafficking, all cash business. And you've got those cops that, unfortunately, the easiest people you can get to traffic narcotics where they're not going to get caught are the police. And
mm.
I did a film down in border Mexico called American Federale.
Okay.
And I told the man that I did this film with, I said, listen, when we get to this border here, the corruption stops. And he said, what are you talking about? The corruption stops. I said, well, no, it's only on the Mexican side.
Mm,
And he laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing. He said,
mm,
who do you think we give the drugs to? I was like, I don't know. Who? He said, we give it to the police and to the sheriffs. He said, that's where we give the drugs to. So, we've got, and it's not every police officer, but it's like the compartmentalized information. Those who need to know need to know. Those who aren't in on it It's going on right next to them. They don't even see it. But police vehicles transporting narcotics, I mean, it just makes perfect sense. And when you look at a place like Compton, they had 6 police helicopters. One of those crashed, and there's kilos of cocaine strewn about the debris field. I mean, it's not conjecture. This is how it works. And
Jesus.
the in a related interview to that American Federale story, after I released the film, I interviewed Matt Perez, who successfully sued the FBI. And he met Calderoni, who was the head of the Federales. And Calderoni came over with his men, and they met with Matt Perez, who was the section chief in El Paso, and his men. And he looked at Matt Perez and he said, "We know who's corrupt on your side of the border. You don't know who your own men are that are corrupt." He said, "But we'll tell you if we can reach out to some kind of an agreement." And he ran it up the flagpole to try and create an agreement. And the higher ups told him, "No, don't do it. Stop your investigating." Same thing Russell Poole was told. And so he was looking at the guys he's working with, wondering who among these guys is the corrupt ones that Calderoni was talking about. And he was never able to find out.
So with Russell, and then we'll wrap up and get back for next week on this time. So with Russell, he just started. He was under impression when he basically kind of first got in the force that they're there to protect and serve. Kind of what you said, that hey, no way the enemy runs the world, no way this the devil's world. He was under that impression, and then as he went along, he started to have a revelation or awakening himself. Correct?
100%. And he started to bump into people that were blocking his path. And if you think of it, well, we call it damnation, don't we? Our path gets blocked. And so Russell's path to try and solve these homicides was being blocked by people that got themselves and put themselves into the way. And that's what we see in police departments. Now, I believe most police officers are good people and they want to do a good thing and they want to serve their fellow man, and they want to do good out there in the world. But then there are those who are going to do whatever they can to stop justice from happening. And they spent $100 million dirtying up Russell Poole. They show him as this deranged alcoholic who's
Yes.
unhinged and all this crazy stuff, and nothing could be further from the truth.
There we go.
And I went out and drank a few times with Russell Poole. We'd have a few beers. We were meeting secretly with a DA who wanted to reopen the cases. And sadly, that wasn't able to happen. But I never saw a deranged alcoholic who was unhinged. I never saw somebody who was abusing, women in relationships or any of this like crazy stuff they try and paint him with. And I never heard anything about that. So, what they did to Russell Poole is to try and dirty him up and not show us the God-fearing man that he was. His uncle is a preacher. I mean, and that's how I met Russell, was through his aunt and uncle.
Wow.
And these are also God-fearing people. I mean, they live every day the gospel and, right out of the good book. And Russell Poole was the same. He's a God-fearing man. He was Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. I mean, no doubt about it. But he was also officer friendly. And that didn't go over in the department because he wasn't willing to look the other way. He wasn't willing to go along to get along. He wanted to get to the bottom of these murders and to the truth. And these people that were in the department with him were obstructing him from being able to get to the truth.
Again, this is the close friend of the man you're hearing spoken about, late great Russell Poole. This is his friend right here, his associate, his partner, the man that knew the real Russell Poole right now, Mr. Michael Carlin, live from LA, journalist, film director, and also, like I said, the great friend of Russell Poole, who was the LAPD detective on the Biggie case and connected with Biggie's mom, tried to resolve because Biggie's mom had the lawsuit against the LAPD. So the final thing before next time, I just want to, let the people know who may or may not know that Russell Poole, again, his demise. Just kind of just your quick thoughts on Russell Poole's demise. He passed away at the actual law enforcement office in LA. What's
He
your
was at
quick thoughts
Yeah,
before
he was
next
at
time?
sheriff headquarters. He was there to get the cases reopened. He was also there to ask them to get Suge Knight to cooperate. And two cases, one was Tupac, the other one was Biggie. Wanted them both reopened. They would have made the department shine solving those cases. And the one case was Suge Knight, where he was a victim at the One Oak nightclub, and another case where he was at Tams and he had run over Terry Carter. We're
Mm,
going to embarrass the police department, or the sheriffs in that case. And he was like, hey, let's solve these two cases and make you guys shine and avoid the embarrassing case where a sheriff had actually let the shooters into the club to shoot Suge at the One Up
wow.
nightclub. And we had learned that just days before he had the meeting. And that piece of information is what got me disinvited to the meeting. I was supposed to attend, and then they said, "Oh no, now that this is a sheriff thing, it's a cop thing, and Carlin can't come to the meeting now." And Russell went down
Mm,
there with his evidence, and that I prepared him with, and he died in that meeting. And there's all kinds of speculation about what happened, but the stories that even the sheriffs have have said about what happened at that meeting are all conflicting. And
and there
we
was
can
no
get into
video
that
footage.
another time. Yeah, well, they never showed that. They're not going to show that. They wouldn't
Well,
even tell me who was in the meeting. I mean,
man.
why can I not know who was in the meeting? There were six people in the meeting besides Russell, and I
And
could never get a straight answer about who those people were that were in the meeting.
the truth shall make these people free, because in the end, Galatians 6 and 7 states, every man has got to reap what he sowed. So we got to keep that in mind. Everyone is going to get what they put out, no matter if they covered it up, no matter what the truth is or what the lie is. It shall all be exposed by the Creator. So just wrapping this thing up tonight. I know I definitely, it's more to go. We're speaking on the murder cases of Biggie, Tupac, police corruption, and Mr. Michael D. Carlin, who's actually friends with Mr. Russell Poole, the late, great one, Russell Poole, who was getting to the bottom of these cases and just seemed to be railroaded, seems to be blocked, and honestly seems to be taken out, honestly, at the station. So we're going to get into more of that coming up. Michael, is anything you want to tell the people before we get out of here and resume next week?
Well, I believe the blood of all of these murders, including Bobby Finch, Philip Wallen-Marion, Kelly Jamerson, these are all related murders. Tupac and Biggie, I believe the blood of these men cries out from the ground, and God wants these murders to be solved. And we're here to get to the bottom of it, all of us. All of you fans out there, too, can help as well. I mean, the best leads come from the crowd. And a lot of you are probably in Compton and other places where you know things.
Man, please speak up. And just before even we end this thing, anybody in the chat, if you got any questions, any feedback, any comments, right now is your time. We'll do it briefly. If I don't see any, we'll get it on to next time. But any comments? I know y'all, North Carolina's in the building, Miami, I seen New York, LA in the building tonight, Little Rock, Arkansas, Virginia. Questions for this man right now, who's the close friend of Russell Poole, who was on the case of Biggie, discovered things about Tupac's case and the corruption within the LAPD and every other and all just enforcement across the board. But he was an upstanding guy, a great police officer, no matter what they say on other platforms. Look it up for yourself, do the research, and just make sure you're getting it from credible sources. People that are not paid off or not corrupted, don't have a history of many crimes and felonies and things like that, and just get the truth. The truth shall make us free. God bless you for tapping in with this great interview. It's all done through Yahweh, God first, and all the connections he's allowed me to get. You got feedback? You got topics that you want me to ask the person? You got any questions? Anything that we didn't answer in full? Hit me up. Just send an email to 8amexposure@gmail. It's going to be listed right here on the screen. So hit me up. Let your voice be heard in this new year, 2025. Real people, real stories. Talk to me.
They took Pac, they took Biggie, so all they got is us, the Holy Spirit within me. God led me to write it, powerful words written. I ain't never met Pac, was just a kid that witnessed. I remember it was up 96, the tension in the air, you could just feel it. You east or west had to pick it, ain't no middle grounds, homie. Carolina we living, since we rocked in the South, we both relentless.